Welcome to Podcast IRC, conversations with Indigenous scholars to advance understandings and gain new knowledge, hosted by the Indigenous Research Center at Salish Kootenai College. One might think, I guess, when you hear that, you'd think, oh, that sounds like something somebody recorded over there in Kentucky, in the old, what is it called? The Bluegrass Hills or the Smoky Blue Mountains?
No, the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Smoky Mountains.
The Smoky Mountains in a little old shack, you know.
In the holler.
But down in the holler. With your bloodhound and your moonshine a brewing, but nay. That actually is
Tell us where was it recorded?
I'll tell you where it was recorded. It was recorded right here in Arley, Montana, on the Flathead Indian Reservation in 1950. Played by Jerome Vanderburg, a man of mini legend here, and I guess he learned it in school, probably the old missionary school, and the notes on it say it was it says they have a EuroAmerican flavor of a country dance, but unfortunately the Jerome Vanderburg couldn't remember what the name of the tune was. I tried to look it up, I tried to Shazam it. You guys know Shazam? Is that what it's called? Shazam? I don't know what that service is called, where you play a song, it listens to it, the app listens to it, and then it tells you what the song is called or whatever. Is that called Shazam? You guys don't use it. Never mind. Siri does the same thing, but it actually uses Shazam. I better look it up. I better not say it again. Anyway, all it does is kick back the song that Jerome Vanderburg played on this harmonica. But I suppose one could say that this is shocking. I don't know. Shocking. You guys think it's shocking? This is 1950. Old traditional Salish person jamming out some old country, EuroAmerican country tune.
I guess you could say he was getting down with the time, huh?
He was getting down with the time. And, I bet his knee and his leg was just popping. That sounded like a real knee slapper. Okay. I hear it. You guys ain't got a lot to say tonight.
No, I was trying to be nice. I was waiting for Cammy because I'm sure she has something to say about this very thing.
Oh, is that so? Okay. No, so I was just listening to it, and a harmonica was a little bit surprising as instrument. I guess you don't hear that, and it's not something that I would have really thought was popular around here at any point, because then maybe you would still hear it, like it would be around somehow. So that was a little bit surprising, but it also, to me, like listening to it, it sounded like a song that would like a stringed instrument.
Like a fiddle.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess just both of those, not things that I would think of, somebody around here. Because, we're making jokes about whichever ridge or mountain this might have been played in some shack, but it doesn't sound like the Jocko. So I guess it's just the same reaction that the rest of us are having about it, but maybe just um, a little bit wondering how, like, all right, what happened to that kind of music? I mean, if this was
Yeah.
something that he was
Yeah, yeah.
playing and other people heard, like, what it was just maybe
Sure.
entertainment. So now we've got the radio, and those songs don't sound like they came from around here either. So I guess
Right. Well, I guess they're in oh yeah, go ahead, finish up. Sorry.
no. I guess I was pretty finished.
Is he just kind of messing around, or is that like an actual tune?
Well, apparently from the notes, he says that he doesn't remember the title of the song. So it was something that he learned in school, like they were teaching. Well, that happened when, like, when the missionaries came, the priests, they said, well, we're going to occupy these young boys' time by teaching them all these different instruments. And I guess they had a pretty good little brass and woodwind band back in the day that all these old timers the old timers from the 50s. I guess he wasn't too old in the 50s, but that they became accustomed to that these different types of instruments. And apparently, from some of the other stories you hear around here in the Arley area and in Mission, is that the fiddle was pretty popular among some folks, and a lot of them would play some of the old war dance tunes or some of the old love songs on their fiddles. Apparently, is what
Yeah,
I've heard.
that was pretty popular all over the place. I know with like the Cree, the Blackfeet, the fiddle. Um, in fact,
Yeah.
I think it made its way into even some like ceremonies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now this is just one of them old wives' tales, or maybe it could be true, maybe not true. That I used
Yeah.
to hear that some Cree Indians were playing the fiddle. Some researchers, either from France or Ireland, I've heard two different versions of it, um, came to listen to them and identified those fiddle songs as being like almost not ancient, but centuries old from
Yeah.
from Europe, and they were preserved among these tribal people. Now that's one of those things where it's like, um, I don't know. I've never read anything on it, but I've always kind of heard
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 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 I went down this little research trail for a while with some of these old Catholic hymns, that were sung by the Salish language, and the tunes, the tunes that they sing to. A lot of them were composed by the priests that came here, but a lot of them were either inspired or they're taken directly from old, funeral songs, or old war dance songs. So I was trying to separate out which one of those tunes were, as a way to preserve that particular song that might be gone by now, but a way to preserve that those particular traditional songs, especially the funeral type of songs, which you don't hear too much, which you don't hear at all around here anymore. They're all the hymns these
Yeah,
days.
that kind of happened. What happened in with crows? Um, the there was these existing songs, this genre of music that was more individualized, and they're known as crow hymns today. But the song structure and the song style came from pre church, right? And then as the church
Yeah,
comes in, that style is adopted by the church, and a lot of them songs are converted to Christian
yeah,
hymns. But the song style, the genre, the melody, it's all pre church. And you can kind of
yeah,
see some of them tunes. Um, they were individual like medicine songs of people that were
yeah,
converted. Um, and in fact, some of the hymns that are sung were even given to individuals through like dreams and fasting. So you would even argue it's still just a medicine song. It's just sung in a church, right?
yeah.
So it's weird how like that happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it brings up a very, very important topic that is important today. But before we talk about that, let's see who's all here. We got Brenda. We got Brenda Shepard. She's our administrative assistant, and of course we got Camia Dumontier. She is working on the education and training piece with our center. And then we've got Aaron Bryn, research coordinator, and we also have today with us. We're fortunate to have Marty Lopez. He's our inaugural visiting scholar at our research center, and he's a PhD student in the visual anthropology program. Does that sound right,
Yep.
Marty?
Yes, I am here at the University of Montana in Missoula, Montana.
Cool. And then let us know where you're from.
All right. Well, I'm a Crow tribal member, and I'm from near Billings, Montana. I call it the Upper Peninsula of the Crow Reservation. I got that from a good friend. And, well, I graduated from Little Bighorn College with my associate's degree, and ever since then, I've been at the University of Montana and currently in the PhD program.
Cool. Right on. Good to have you on today. Hopefully we can get some good details out of you here. So yeah, we're talking about this this harmonica song, and I thought it was fitting to introduce the topic of what one might call positive stereotyping, and the idea of positive stereotyping can lead to it can lead to some very dangerous things, such as romanticism, the romanticism. Wait, the romanticization. How do you say it? The romanticization. I can't say it. It can lead to romanticizing the way we think about ourselves. Not even taking into account what other people think about natives, but more importantly, what we think of ourselves. And that's kind of what this idea of positive stereotyping is, where we embody some or embrace some stereotype that's not necessarily true, and then it becomes part of something that we often think of as ourselves. And one of those examples is something like all natives are holistic thinkers or circular thinkers, which I don't know. I guess you could embrace that and you could tout it as a characteristic of yourself, but I don't necessarily think that's 100% true. What do you guys think?
Well, when I first heard a positive stereotype, I kind of laughed and questioned, is there even such a thing as a positive stereotype? Because it seems like it can start out as positive, but it always kind of goes to something a little bit negative and cliche. Do you guys get that as well? Or can you really have a real positive stereotype? Why are you guys quiet? Is that weird? Do you guys? I mean, it's that was my first thought on it, and I mean, Shondine, you said a lot, but when it comes to being a positive stereotype, I just kind of feel like it. How can I say this?
Well, give us an example.
Like an example of a positive stereotype.
Yeah, what you're talking about.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like everybody thinks that if you're native, you have like a supernatural sense. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying we don't?
I don't know. Do we?
Well,
I do.
You do?
I mean,
I use it every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm using it right now.
I knew what you were going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like positive stereotypes kind of set the standard a little bit high sometimes.
I think you're right. But I think that's what makes them so dangerous, is because they're presented to us as like they're doing us a favor, and that's kind of always how it seems like. These types types, I don't want to say it like that. These stereotypes can be embraced by Native people, and that's dangerous. It's not necessarily, we're used to, I think Native people for the most part are used to some level of racism and bigotry and prejudice, but the this stereotyping, I guess, I see that it's being embraced by Native people. And that's dangerous because what it does is it substitutes a way of thinking with a foreign way of thought that's like predetermined.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like an example is like the stewards of the land, right? Because it's inherently not a negative. Like you're not going to say, well, are we not stewards of the land? And I'm like, well, I guess I'm just as much a steward as the next person, regardless of, but I don't somehow by openly saying you're a steward of the land, I feel like that's kind of it's like that's a hierarchy system. Like it's saying, well, now I have the land needs me to do something to maintain it, which is just false. It's completely false. The land is going to heal and fix itself regardless of what I do. And land will maintain itself and evolve without the influence of me, to some degree, like when I say, oh, tribal people are stewards of the land, it's like, well, we're a product of it,
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably the one that I key in the most when I hear anybody talk about native worldviews or native ways of thinking. Is people want to dial into this idea that and you hear it all the time. We're preparing the earth for the next generation, or we're got to save all this for our kids and make sure all these things are maintained in some sort of state. But like you were saying, Aaron, that's imposing a lot of control on us over nature, which nature is a pretty big thing, and it's a pretty big deal. And I don't think we got the rights to control any of those things. And I don't think we can. I mean, we can sure destroy it. We can sure we can sure have a hand in that, and we can also have a hand in fixing some things that were destroyed. But to be the in control of, I think we need to be more in control of ourselves first, rather than trying to control the the deforestation problem, which the problem is humans to begin with. So that's it never makes sense to me. Maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, and maybe I'm way off base, but I like to think that we're just a part of the whole function of the ecosystem, and we can choose to step out of that and become something else. But then I don't think that's really what we're meant to be.
Do you think we can be in danger of overthinking that too? Overthinking that relationship?
I think so. Yeah. We have so many things that have infiltrated our world that our ancestors had lived. We got so many of these other things going on that are so unlike the world that maybe we strive to be in. And if we continue to try to compare those two things, it can get burnt out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like, man, I shouldn't be sitting here staring at this computer with all this technology around me. I should go out and plant some trees.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. That's the stereotype, in a way, the positive stereotype. Well, that's my duty. I should do that.
Yeah, and it's almost to the point where the stereotype itself is you should put your hand on the ground and then tell me what the earth wants us to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on a far end of the spectrum,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, use your supernatural powers to read the earth, or like the Avatar, put your braid on the knapweed and speak to it and tell it to leave my garden. Yeah.
Put your braid on the knapweed.
Yeah. Ask it, why are you invading my garden, sir?
Yeah. Could you not do that?
Yeah. I mean, there's all that land over there. Just go right on over there.
How can we coexist?
What can I do for you, knapweed, that you can do for me?
Well, maybe Cammy or Marty can jump in on this part of it.
Yeah.
'Cause they're
Yeah, what do you
being
guys got
pretty
to say?
quiet.
Pretty mum. Go.
Okay, go. All right. I'll try for a second. I don't know. So I get what you guys are saying. And I agree with it. I think that it is sort of a dangerous thing. And I mean it certainly can affect the way we think about ourselves, and then we start limiting ourselves and put these ideas that don't need to be there. So there's that thing. But just like acknowledging that a stereotype comes from the outside, and so where that's coming from, kind of just putting it back there and thinking that, all right, a person who has like this idea, it's a positive idea. I mean, it's the trouble. Well, I mean, maybe kind of related to why it's so hard to get people to acknowledge that mascots are messed up. That they're like, no, I'm honoring you, right? So they're saying that this is coming from this positive place in them, that they're acknowledging something that is good or admirable or whatever it is. And so you can't get them to acknowledge that it's a bad thing. So it's hard to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
It's a positive thing. And so they're not going to want to examine it. They're not going to want to let it go. And then kind of like, put your braid on the knapweed. And then when nothing happens in the eradication of an invasive species, it's your fault because you didn't do what you were supposed to. Like, we've realized that you have this really cool and special relationship with the land that, granted, we don't understand, but we think that there's something there. And so now it's your job to take care of it. And the fact that it's going bad, like really, really bad, and you're not doing anything to stop it, well, it's your failing, right? You're the steward of the earth, and so fix climate change, right? Like, okay. That's
It's weird
I
to
mean,
think.
it's just all about somebody else. It's all about somebody else, and it doesn't
Yeah.
really have anything to do with the person that's being stereotyped. And so there's that level of it. And then of course what you're saying about, a person is tired of being told they're terrible in every way, and now somebody's telling them that, oh, okay, this is acceptable. And so sure, they're not going to want to constantly get beat down, so they'll stick to that thing that
Mm-hmm.
is acceptable. And I mean, it's just
Right.
limiting, I guess.
Yeah. What was you going to say, Aaron?
Oh, it just made me think of no one ever seems to think of climate change as being a way of getting rid of us.
Well, it is. It has
well, I mean, it's like the earth. So we view it as like we got to fix climate change, but it's like, well, what if it's actually the earth trying to fix itself and get rid of
Right.
us?
Whoa, dude. Whoa.
Let's heat this baby up and see how long they
Yeah, let's just
survive.
drown them and burn them, and then
what's
we can
that?
fix ourselves.
What's that, like the something in boiling water? You just turn it up really slowly, so the world is doing that to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the frogs. Isn't that how you cook frogs?
I,
I didn't
I
know.
don't know. I think
I just
Marty
heard.
was gonna say something.
Oh yeah. What's up, Marty? What you
Oh
got?
yeah. Well, I was just going to continue on this thought that these stereotypes, whether they be positive or not, really do kind of um, could have a big effect on individuals because, as we all can plainly see, all Native Americans are assimilated to some degree, but there are some who are fortunate to grow up traditionally and grow up learning traditions like singing and dancing and ceremonies. And then there's some natives who grow up with basically nothing, just maybe the knowledge that they are this certain tribe, they are this certain clan, they're related to these people, they go to powwows once in a while. And then there's these stereotypes that you can't fulfill because you didn't learn them. And I think so when you look at it that way, it could be these kind of whether they be positive or not. And some people might think the word positive's in there, it's got to be good, but it could be having psychological effects or things like that on the individual level throughout reservations. So that's another big thing that comes to mind when we talk about stuff like this.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's such a diverse topic because there's so many ways in which we think about ourselves that may or may not be too true. But it reminds me of this time when I first got into college, and I had this roommate. He was from Santa Fe. He's an old cowboy guy, and he his first time in Montana, and he wanted to go hunting, with Indians. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll take you hunting, sure." And so we go out just outside of Missoula somewhere, and he says, "Well, Indians are real good trackers. You should go find us a deer." And and I didn't want to disappoint him, because that's what he thought, and it seemed like a cool thing to have. But I don't know what he wanted me to stab a knife in the ground and listen for a deer. I didn't know what he wanted, so I just kind of wandered around, and of course we didn't find no deer. And I think I disappointed him and
Bummed him out.
popped his bubble. Bummed him out. He's like, Indians aren't good trackers. What's going on?
Yeah, where's your bow and arrow and atlatl?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Where's your obsidian?
So he
Well, I
got a
think
yeah, go ahead.
I was just trying to loop it back around to the song we heard earlier,
Yeah.
and just just that individual playing his harmonica in kind of like a country folk music genre type song. Just kind of makes you think about those stereotypes we were talking about, that's what he learned to do and that's how he's expressing himself, and that doesn't make him less native than the next person who's maybe singing a traditional song. And I'm not saying learning our traditional ways and our traditional songs is any bad or anything, but I mean there's always these varying levels of assimilation. Could somebody please stop me when I'm sounding like an idiot?
Well, actually,
Rein her in, Marty.
that-
Rein her in. No, I'm just kidding.
he's in the weeds. He's
like-
in the weeds. No, I'm
He's
just
like,
kidding.
if
Take a
this
breath.
topic's hitting a little too close to home, I'm sorry. I'm surrounded by all types of instruments from EuroAmerica.
I don't know. So, like that kind of going back to like the positive stereotype can be really limiting. So, a person can, a person can have this relationship to music, right? Whatever Jerome Vanderburg thought about music, thought about songs, he now has a new instrument and he has heard some new songs. And so it would be kind of a weird thing to say, no, in order to protect the songs, these traditional songs that you have, you can't touch a harmonica and you can't learn any modern music. You have to like shut yourself off from any kind of music accept that.
Mm.
It's a weird way of thinking, but it does fit with that positive stereotype, because it would be, well, if you think that traditional music is important, then you're going to be that really traditional person, and you can't listen to other kind of music. Um, you can't play other kind of music, like your idea with this guy, and how he's thinking about, okay, Indian must be a good hunter. So he's gonna do it in a certain way. He's gonna track a deer or an elk like through the mountains with a bow and arrow. I mean, good luck with that. If you have a gun, aren't you gonna think that that might give you a better chance of success? So I don't know.
Well, there's a yeah. I've always said tribal people are creatures of convenience. We like do the smartest thing, right? That's why the gun came in so popular. That's why the horse took over everything. That's why the bow and arrow replaced the atlatl. It's just convenience. We're not idiots, we're not gonna like, and also George, I think it was I can't remember who said this, but they said that tribal people, especially in the plains, are have a strong appeal to aesthetics. So like they enjoy fashion, they like the way things look, they like the way things sound.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of if it's tribal or not, if it sounds good and it's palatable, it's going to be absorbed, into just the way tribal people think. They like cool things, That's
Yeah.
It was never, I don't think it was ever like, my grandfather had a country band in the 50s and 60s, and there's nobody that would say, oh, he wasn't Crow,
Yeah.
like, no, that's just not the way.
Yeah.
It's not the way those people thought,
Yeah, that's a really good example of a positive stereotype that we all kind of deal with right now. Is there's a social pressure, whatever group of people you hang out with, there's a social pressure to be like that and to reject all these other things. And that idea of traditionalism, I think, is a pretty powerful one. You get pressures to, like Camilla was saying, well, guy, I want to be a traditional person, so I'm going to cancel my Netflix subscription and, maybe I'll just pray all night. I don't know. That's the kind of the pressure that I think some young people experience until they kind of learn that idea that we don't have to buy into these positive stereotypes where, like Aaron said, we're practical people. We do things that make us feel good. And the other things, the important ceremonial things, yeah, those have their place. But just like Jerome Vanderburg, he learned to play a cool instrument and composed himself maybe some songs, or maybe he learned a song that he heard from wherever and just started playing it. And that's pretty cool, man.
Like it's funny. It's funny to think of, like, when the horse came. I wonder if there was like some old Indian dudes sitting in their TV going like, these dang kids, they don't respect tradition. They're riding around real fast. Like I try to picture like these gosh darn hoodlums and their horses.
When we went to winter camp, we walked.
Yeah.
We didn't ride those four-legged creatures.
What are they? Why are they in such a hurry?
them and their metal arrowheads. Oh, fancy.
Oh, fancy.
I don't like
But
that's the way it was, and we liked it.
And it was the best way. And then before that, it was when the bow and arrow came, and they're like all these lazy kids with their bows and their arrows, and who wants to carry those around, Then you got to make a quiver.
Don't even know what a woolly mammoth is.
Yeah. Back in my day when we was hunting megafauna with my atlatl. Like, so I just don't know why we're the generation of criticism where we just criticize any new evolution and culture. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And you see it on different reservations where people just like, so we're slaves to our own stereotypes too, you know. And I guess this leads to what I would think is another big stereotype among tribal people is living in two worlds. This notion of living in two worlds. I mean, people write books about it. There's workshops. There's people who wear two different shoes, and like, I got one shoe, and
They do?
Yeah. There's actually a story.
I never heard of that.
There's a story that I won't mention any names, but someone came to work with a shoe on one foot and a moccasin on the other to signify walking in both worlds.
Yes. Marty, was you going to say something?
Aaron cut me off there, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Well, I was just sorry to dampen the mood again, but there's a lot of pressures out there in the media. I was, watching my television like an average American, and you get bombarded with these pressures to transform your body like Jacob from Twilight and grow your hair long to be that Native American hero. But then he goes and cuts his hair and confuses things. So
with his teeth whitener.
That's my scholarly opinion.
So what about this notion of living in two worlds, Marty?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Aaron. It's a common I think it's overly used by people on the outside looking in and saying, getting comments like, "Oh, you're pretty smart for a Native person," or "You're really responsible for a Native person," you know, so that automatically there is this idea like you're Native American, but you can also succeed in a Western world. That's amazing. You're automatically on a pedestal just because you can pay some bills.
Or when they say, "You speak really well." I've had people say that to me. Man, you speak really
Your
well.
English is impeccable.
So yeah, I went to school just as long as you did, you know, like.
Yeah. Let's listen to this other song real quick. How's that sound?
Do it.
Then we'll keep talking about this. Here it comes, coming at you. So this is a pretty interesting one here. This kind of the backstory on this song, sung by Larry Parker. He was his grandfather was actually Jackson Sundown from Nez Perce over there, and he grew up mostly over here on the Flathead Indian Reservation here, and he was quite the character, man. He in his adult life, he could speak Salish, Nez Perce, but he could also speak German, Spanish, Russian, and also a Kootenai. So he was quite a scholar in his day. But he was somebody told me a story about him. Actually, it was Johnny Arlee told me a story about them sitting around at a powwow one day. This was probably back in the 70s or 80s, maybe. And then Larry Parker kind of taps him and says, "Hey, Johnny, let's sing this song." And he pulled out of his pocket the sheet music, and he had the song that he wanted to sing all notated on his sheet music. So he was kind of a music buff in that way, and he did he contributed a lot to the archives over there in the Nez Perce country of different songs that he knew. But this song in particular, I'm pretty sure is one that he probably composed. It has a very odd sound to it, not typical of a love song around here. But I guess it could be possible he picked it up over in the Nez Perce country. I haven't heard too many of the Nez Perce love songs, but it has a odd tone to it, which made me think that maybe this was a composed song, and he did compose a number of songs, which is pretty a new kind of concept for the times, since most of these songs were considered and were from given from the spirits and not something you sit down and make up.
Well, his era, I guess 1914 to 1995 would kind of lend to that, when things are starting to be, when you see song composure starting to pop up, especially from the 40s on, like the 40s through the 60s, like it just hits big time. Now, I of course I wouldn't speak for all of history and say that no tribal person composed a song before that, right. But you're right, like most songs were considered kind of like divinely prompted, like they were given, they were received, I guess.
Yeah, or even heard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's like most of the songs that we listened to in the previous two episodes. Those were all gifted. And prior to this song, and like you said, that era prior to him, the only songs that were actually made up or composed were just the lullabies for the kids. The rest of them all of them were given by some spiritual gift. So kind of a edging into this new territory. And oftentimes if you prescribe to the old ways, or you're thinking in those times, when you think about some of the people that you looked up to or that you had gotten teachings from, we have a hard time separating that idea of the stereotype, the positive one. That when I think of Larry Parker, I always think, oh yeah, he I wouldn't imagine him composing songs, because I felt like he would embody the old way of thinking. And it's kind of funny because he used to sing this song, and he'd lean over to us kids when we were just young, and he said, "This song is called "A Man Called Horse," and he'd sing it through. And I always thought the song was like from some spiritual gift,
not from a,
and it was from a man that they called Horse, But here I come to find out, as I got older and into researching these things, it was a song that they sang for the show Man Called Horse. And so that was the song that they sang for that show. And he just called it Man Called Horse. So I grew up thinking that this song was named Man Called Horse because it come from some story about a man called Horse. It was a TV show. Is it Robert Redford?
Yeah, I think
was
so.
He Man Called Horse?
Yeah, and that movie actually lends to a lot of stereotypes, man. When they string him up and they put those skewers in his chest, and how they think now, people from that era especially. I mean, I'm sure we're getting out of that where most people don't know what that movie is now, young,
Mm-hmm.
But they all think every tribal person does that. It's Man Called Horse. Everyone get out there and watch a Man Called Horse.
Yeah. So some of the other common stereotypes, positive stereotypes, you hear it a lot, especially, working at the tribal college, being an instructor, and, at the interface of these young natives, you hear it all the time, native people learn differently. They're circular thinkers, and everything they think and all the things they do are in circles. And I would listen to that, when I was a student, and even today I still hear that, and I think, well, I think pretty linearly a lot. Not to say I don't think circularly, but I wouldn't embody that as something I do all the time.
Yeah, that's a tough one because you're gonna this idea will offend people in academics of questioning
Yeah.
the non-circular native thinker,
Yeah.
which exists.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah.
assume that all native
Yeah.
people think in this kind of I always think of I pronounce you Chuck and Larry. You ever watch that movie?
Chuck and Larry.
That guy,
Uh-uh.
they get married and the guy goes, life's a circle, not a triangle, not a square. It's a circle. I think I'm totally misquoting it, but um, I have struggled with this one myself because I don't know if I think linearly or if I think circularly. I've always thought of the way I think as like either a puzzle, right? Like it's a puzzle, and I'm trying to I'm just fill in the gaps. Then also I always use the example of a Rolodex, those old school Rolodexes, and it's just spinning all the
Yeah.
time. And every once in a while you can catch what you see. And so you kind of create thought based on how many times that goes around. So you can think of multiple things at once,
Yeah.
so you're having several ideas going on at one time in your head. So I don't know, maybe the others can jump in on this because I've been personally conflicted with this idea. I've tried to even buy into the idea that because I'm native, I think in a circle and not linearly. As I get older, I don't know if it's either or if it's situational.
Any thoughts, Camii?
So I'm remembering being in Missoula at the U of M, and I think I was in an ed psych class, and I had a really, really amazing instructor. And it's a big class. These are a bunch of students who are planning on being teachers, and so they're really big into education. And right, education has all these trends. And I'm not entirely sure what it is now, but then they had like these different modes of learning. And so people would take these like quizzes or surveys, and then they would say, I'm an auditory learner, or I'm a whatever learner, like I need to do projects, that kind of a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I remember he gave like a warning and said, I know that I'm going to say some stuff that really most of you have a hard time with. So just, next class, basically, I'm going to kill puppies is what he's saying. Like, all right, see what goes on here. So I come to class and
Horrible.
yeah, I know, right? And basically what he said, and what was really surprising to me, is that he said that this idea that people can only learn in certain ways, and that um, you need to accommodate each person's style of learning is not good, because everybody learns in a bunch of different ways, and everybody learns best if you give them a bunch of different styles of instruction. So, yeah, there's
Mhm.
some individual difference. Some people kind of tend more towards one thing or towards another, but just by and large, if you teach in several different ways, then everybody's going to learn better. And you could see these people, like I said, they want to be teachers, and so they'd bought into this, and it was almost like they had adopted it as a part of their identity. This is the kind of learner I am.
Huh.
And so if you tell me
Oh, yeah.
something different, I'm really going to have a hard time with that. And so I think that
Yeah.
this is kind of one of those things too. Uh, You're trying to create a label for the way people think. And yeah, there's going to be cultural differences, but yeah, positive stereotyping or just stereotyping a certain kind of person thinks
Yeah.
in a certain way. I don't see how that's possible. It doesn't take into account just the way people are varied.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, I guess this is just, I just keep thinking of different examples. And so I would just go off in 10 different directions, but you better cut me off now.
You're thinking too circularly.
Yeah,
I'm going to
right.
go and think a little more linearly
There we
now.
go. There we go.
Yeah. No, you're right. It becomes almost like a defense mechanism. You can see people putting up a fight saying, well, I can't, I'm not going to do that task because it's not holistic. You're not thinking holistically,
Mhm.
or I don't think linearly, so I can't do that, or I will not do that. When, like you said, the diversity of thought and the diversity of thinking I think is inherent in all people. We might embrace one intuitively more than the other, but I think I think we all have the ability, and I think we do think many different ways. It's just like, if you think about the raw definition of what linear thinking is, it just embraces logic and rules. That's it.
Mhm.
Logic and rules. And we do that every day. I mean, I went over to Aaron's house and he was building the round pen. I Just because it's round doesn't mean he was thinking circularly. He's probably thinking pretty linearly. I got to dig a hole. I got to measure these out. So one step after the other to get to his goal.
Yes.
I don't think he was. Yeah.
But he did build a circle, though, correct?
Touche.
But he did build a circle. Oddly, the Native American built a circle because the power of the world always works in circles.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's the round pen design, which I learned from a white guy.
Because Native American tribal philosophy uses the circle in everyday life patterns.
Well, yeah, and actually, you're by bringing up that round pen, you actually brought up a pretty interesting another stereotype, which is how Native people train horses, start colts, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen over the last few years several Native horse trainers making a name for themselves, applying a method they're calling Native, but it didn't exist in pre-reservation. Native people, in today's standards, it probably would have been deemed pretty harsh in how they start their horses and
Right.
But this idea of natural horsemanship, Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance and all that stuff, and maybe this is actually a topic for another show or something, but that we're adopting that, but to assume that that's how tribal people did that, and a lot of people will, like, they think that, like, this is actually in the horse world, this is a big thing. Like, Native people have this touch with horses, and it's like, well, I mean, I've been bucked off horses, and that horse obviously didn't think I had a touch,
Well, you didn't put your braid on its mane.
You're right. I gotta plug in, man. I didn't plug in.
You got to plug out and then
Avatar that. Yeah. Avatar that horse, man.
Marty, did you just tell me to, like, reset? Is that like a reset?
No, just unplug and get outside and then plug into the horse.
Oh yeah, you're right, man. We got to be plugged in this world.
Control Alt Delete.
Control Alt Delete. Unplug, count to 5, plug back in, reset your browser.
You could get really old school. You could get really old school if you want, and put a pack on your dog too.
Yeah. Holistically, of course. a holistic pack. So I know I don't want to get too far out of hand, but as far as positive stereotypes, the horse one is a big one, because it's brought up all the time. Another one, of course, is living in two worlds. Man, the circular thinking thing. It's like, especially in academics, that living in two worlds and circular thought or holistic thought is like, it's like it's pushed down to you. And as far as research, and when you're doing research, the leaders in Indigenous research methods is that's the foundation. It's all based on this, what we're told is Indigenous philosophy. And but the more and more you investigate, it's really like repackaged, like education pedagogy, right? Like it's from the education vein. So it's all these I don't know what you call them, like from the 80s, and
like a vein in a mine, like a gold
mine vein.
Or
an ore vein
filled with education.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that this idea was actually, the way I understand how this whole thing started with this type of philosophy, it's basically non-Indian educators trying to understand Native people and then reinterpreting and repackaging the way Native people think and then selling it back to Native people. And then we bought it.
Yep, that's
We bought
exactly
into it.
Yep.
That's the dangerous part.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a farmer. Marty comes to my farm, starts stealing oranges off of my farm, and then I see him on the side of the road, and then I buy the oranges back.
Yeah.
And he's selling them to me as his
Marty.
as his like as this is his orange stand. I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm helping him out, and then he gives me a deal. So then I think I got a deal on the oranges, and that's the same thing with this. The way Indigenous research method is, when I read it, I'm not trying to disrespect any individual, but I feel like I was raised fairly close to Native people, and I feel like I understand Native people. And when I try to implement Indigenous research method, I actually feel the most disconnected from Native people than I ever do, is when I'm trying to do that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I gave up on it and tried to do my own thing, you know?
Yeah. So in a way, I think a lot of the literature out there can be, like you said, filled with some of these positive stereotypes that feel good. Like you want to embrace them. You want them to be part of what you're doing, but maybe they're not quite situated in the reality of Native life. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, it's repackaged and repurposed, and it comes back to us as kind of this cookie cutter form of something that maybe is rooted in something Indigenous, but it's no longer that anymore. And I could be wrong. I might be wrong, but all I know is when I've tried to use it, it doesn't work. It doesn't fit.
Yeah. I don't know if Brenda, Kamei, or Marty want to chime in on that. What are your experiences in that this topic? Go.
Well, it's interesting because I was taught to think in circles, when it comes to all sorts of things, from like the ecosystem all the way to a cycle pattern. The image is a circle, and so I just feel a little bit conflicted about that.
What do you mean you were taught? Like
just in education systems, when you go to school and you learn about the ecosystem, everything's taught to you in like circles,
Yeah, for sure. But it's not isolated to just Native people.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
I think
true.
even science has always recognized that things work in this idea of circular, but there's also linear ways of thinking that are just as effective. True. I think that's kind of what Marty or Sean Dean was saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think pretty linearly often it helps me to solve some difficult problems without bringing in too many other variables. It's a lot like the scientific method, which is, I think, not exclusive to Western science. I think it's just a human endeavor. We solve things logically, and that's just.
I think this is a good place to say, if someone disagrees with us, they can like email us or something, right? and tell us?
Yeah, man.
Because I honestly, like,
should.
I'm questioning. I question the system, and I question these stereotypes, but that don't mean I'm right. So if somebody wants to come in
Right.
and say, hey, maybe look at it this way, I'm willing. I'll
Yeah.
listen to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think we have to embrace the idea, which I think is a pretty traditional thought, that we really need to be honest with each other, and even, if that means taking criticism honestly and being welcome to that. That's really the only way we can progress forward in understanding, what is the modern native philosophy today. I mean, we've gone far enough embracing something that's been repackaged and sold back to us. When do we start having those hard conversations, the disagreements, the agreements? Really kind of pushing through those things and not being afraid to challenge each other's ideas and thoughts. Marty or Camia, you got anything to say on this topic? Go. You got it. I know you've been writing stuff down.
Of course. No, not right now. Not right now.
Yeah. A pass. Hard pass.
That's
Yeah,
a hard.
yeah,
That's a hard pass.
Because here I am.
Marty, do you have anything?
Wait. She's gonna say something. Wait.
All I was just saying is that I'll just start rambling, and then that kind of shoots the whole idea that it's not circular thinking.
We like ramble. I like ramble. Let it out.
Nope.
Be free. Be free of it.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
I like
Marty,
to
what you
make
got?
sense. Yeah, Marty, help.
Well, I mean, that's what trying to, I guess, address a lot of what you guys just got through talking about. My brain's been turning around and around. But back to Indigenous research, when I've conducted my own research, of course, I'm gonna look at it through a different lens, because of my background. I'm Crow, and even on my dad's side, I'm Chicano. So, my lens is a little different than a lot of people in academia. So when I conduct research, and for my master's specifically, I came across what I've started focusing on my research with right now, which is visual anthropology, as you said at the beginning, Shondine. And I just fell in love with this idea of creating art, because when you make a film, whether it be a documentary or a fiction film, it's ultimately art. And that's one thing Native people and Indigenous people aren't strangers to, creating some form of art. And I know that can be a slippery road to walk down, because some of the art you might think of as traditionally Native would be something far greater or higher than what art could be categorized as. But what I'm getting to is, when I did my research about this thing called visual anthropology, and I got into the Indigenous film side of things, it ultimately comes down to when a Native person or an Indigenous person creates this work of art, this film or documentary, it's an act of sovereignty. You're a tribal member, you're a Native person, and you're expressing yourself, and ultimately it's can be argued anyway that it's a act of sovereignty.
Yes, so true, Yeah, there's a lot to this topic, a lot to what you just said, Marty, that probably could use further discussion. And I'm not sure where we're headed at this point with our discussion, for making any sense. But I think we could take some time to contemplate some of these ideas and flesh them out a little more. I often think about this thing called courage, right? You guys all know what courage is.
Yeah, I just watched The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. What is it, like a medal?
Yeah, he gives him
Like
a medal. Yeah, we just watched it the other night, and he gives him a medal of courage, which is
Yeah,
a sham because it's just a medal.
I know. I thought about the Tin Man.
Oh man,
And he wanted a heart,
gave him a clock,
but he was doing pretty good.
but he gave him
I
a
mean, he could
clock.
sing but he got a clock, but he could sing and dance, and he was pretty cheery. I don't think he really needed that anymore.
No, and then he
with the
knew
heart.
the fact that he knew that he didn't have a heart and he had an emotion attached to that because it was a philosophical heart. It wasn't an organ. I was like, wait a second, he's showing heart.
I know, yeah. He was doing pretty good.
Then he sang the song. He could dance. He understood that when the oil got put on his shoulders and his elbow that he felt good. I was like, wait a second, this is
He
all
smiled.
he's showing a lot of emotions. But the fact that the Oz gave him a clock and then masked it as a heart, he should demand his money back.
Yeah.
Flavor Flav wore a clock. So the Tin Man and Flavor Flav are forever attached to each other as wearing clocks and chains on them.
All right. Yeah, that went off. That went off the rail. Yeah.
You did ask a
I
question.
shouldn't have said courage.
Yeah.
I did ask
Yeah,
a question.
got
What
an
can I
answer.
expect?
Yeah.
Jeez. Courage. Yeah. Courage is one of those virtues where, people can say you have it. Say, oh, yeah, that guy's pretty courageous. And you might buy into it and say, oh, yeah, people think I'm pretty courageous. But it's one of those virtues where you kind of have to demonstrate it to prove that it's true. So you can think it, I suppose, but it's one of those virtues where you have to kind of prove it. And I think the way that Native folks think, and in the way that we validate virtue and this idea of positive stereotyping, we tend to, or we can put ourselves in a dangerous spot where we start validating socially our own positive stereotyping. And I think that's where we kind of get into some trouble. But it's something that I think needs some more discussion, and especially this idea of courage. Like, how do we validate anything in a native worldview? And I think that might be a good topic for discussion for next time. What do you guys think?
Repeat what you think the good topic should be, because I'm still stuck on this cowardly lion thing.
Oh my god.
Okay, yeah.
Didn't the lion kind of remind you of like those kids you grew up with on the res that think they're gangsters?
No, I didn't get that at all.
Well, it came from the Menace to
I didn't get that.
Society era, so they're all tough and stuff till it goes down, then they panic,
Oh yeah. Yeah. You've seen a lot of those guys. No, I don't know. I'm looking at an angle to explore this idea more. And virtue and morality, I think, are a couple big topics, especially when we're talking about positive stereotyping. I think it goes beyond just the idea of thinking circular, the idea of holism, living in two worlds, where it comes down to what kind of morals and values do we embrace?
Yeah.
At on face value, and what morals and values do we embrace in our action?
Yeah, because you're right. There's a difference. There's a difference in you can feel like you can say I have a kind heart, but I mean, I guess I got to take your word for it,
Yeah.
Because I don't know what that is. I don't know how does that look? It's just like saying I'm fast. It's like, well, run then. Let me see.
Yeah, let's see it. Yeah.
So this is a tough topic, though.
Yeah.
I think it has to be said that we're not experts on this topic.
Yeah.
And that,
yes,
but we've run into them in research and in academics, and we recognize them as either speed bumps, hurdles, or. But I guess maybe I'm speaking for people when I shouldn't, when they probably see them as something good. But all I know is that if you try to apply a traditional tribal person's way of thinking to the preconditioned thinking of academics, it's not going to fit.
Yeah.
So at the very least, that issue needs to be addressed. What is the traditional way of thinking then? How do Native people think?
Mm-hmm.
Because
yeah,
I don't know what else to say. 7:58 Mountain Time.
Mountain Standard.
Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah,
How come
I think
everyone says standard after their time?
I don't know.
So does that mean there's
Standard.
24 standards in the world?
What?
Yeah, because they'll say like Eastern Standard Time,
I
and
think
then
that's
we'll
just
say
an
Mountain
American
Standard
thing.
Time. Like that's a lot of standards.
That might be a Wikipedia, Google.
Mm.
Google that on.
Mm-hmm.
Google that up. Report back.
Okay, I will. I'll do my research, and I'll use holistic approach.
Oh God.
Yeah. Make sure you don't think linearly. Get that sucker in a circle. Okay, what was you going to say, Brenda?
I don't know. I just really hope that we do continue talking about the whole circle thought process, because I've just bought into it, and now that you guys have brought up other avenues of thinking, and to challenge it, that's kind of something that we should kind of tune into a little bit more. So I vote that we kind of discuss that a little bit further, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's an important one. Camille, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of with Brenda in that, like, you're taught to do this, and I mean, I guess maybe in what I've been saying, it does come across as like a negative thing, that trying to say that this is false, or this is wrong, or you can't do this. I mean, if it's useful, I mean, if that's a pattern that can be applied to a situation and it works, then that sounds good. But there's a lot of patterns that could be applied that might better fit other situations.
What you just said there, Camia, is exactly, that's Native thinking. Everything you just was saying, if it fits and if it works, then I'll use it for that.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, then I'll go with this.
Okay.
Camia is onto something.
There we go.
Way to stereotype her, Aaron. Way to stereotype her.
But it's positive.
But it was positive.
It is positive. It's cliche. No.
No, I think that's true.
Yeah.
It's practical, man, and Indians are practical. I mean, we have to survive just like the next person, and we're going to take what works. It's just like Jerome Vanderburg. You see, maybe he's living through a time where some musical genres are dying out and the power of them is leaving, so why not just pick up the harmonica and keep the entertainment going, that's an important thing.
Right on.
And just like the Larry Parker composing these love songs, he's trying to express himself in what he likes to do. Maybe it's not necessarily a spiritual thing, and maybe that time has come and gone for those kind of things, and he recognized it and understood it, and now he's expressing that in the things that he did. Good way to close her out. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe Marty can give us his final thoughts, and then. But I vote. I vote he's on the next one too.
Yeah, I vote that too.
Yeah.
I'm getting into deep water here.
Put your short pants on.
Every time you guys brought up the circle way of thinking, I always am thinking about in Native literature, they always bring up that like stories. All the stories are told in circles, circular, and just that idea in thought and in literature to me is kind of an abstract thing. So is like all of us have been expressing, it is something that we kind of all just were told and repeatedly, and so it's kind of just been like, oh, it must be true then. So I think these conversations are pretty important, and I'm learning a lot right now. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm thinking and get the facts and figures into the idea machine, and we'll see what I'll come up with.
Did you get that idea machine at Lowe's or was it Best Buy?
It was at IKEA.
It was IKEA.
IKEA, yes.
He had to put it together himself.
They had
Oh,
2-day shipping. Yeah, 2-day
Yeah,
shipping.
some screws
COVID
were
relief.
missing.
Sale.
Cool, man. Well, let's close her out with that then.
All right. Everyone have a good night.
Alrighty. Yeah, you guys too.
okay. Good night.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. And to learn more, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at IRCSKC. You can find us also on Facebook and YouTube by searching SKC Indigenous Research Center. You can also visit our website at irc.skc.edu. Don't forget to join us next time as we continue our discussions on Indigenous research, Indigenous research methodologies, and Indigenous worldviews.